Many projects keep the roadmap in one web app, the code in a repository, and agent conversations across several terminals and chat windows. At first, each tool appears to have a clear job. After a few days away, however, you return to 3 versions of reality that no longer agree. The roadmap still describes last week's plan. The code has moved through 2 revisions. The conversations contain decisions that made sense only in the moment. The problem is not a lack of records. The records do not share a durable home. The most important job of a roadmap is not to predict the exact order of the future. Real projects change. User feedback moves priorities. Technical validation exposes a boundary. A small feature reveals a more important problem. A useful roadmap must answer a different set of questions. Where is the project going now? Which step is active? What observable result counts as complete? And what evidence did the previous execution leave behind? A standalone project management service can be valuable for teams, scheduling, and reporting. The issue is not whether that service is online. The issue is whether the roadmap stays connected to delivery. If updating the plan requires opening another system, translating code changes into new objects, and manually copying validation results, that work is the first thing skipped under pressure. After a few cycles, the roadmap becomes a wish list instead of an action tool. That separation is especially expensive for an independent developer using AI coding agents. An agent can change many files in minutes, but it does not automatically know which boundaries you refuse to move. It will not naturally remember why a path was rejected in a previous session. A long-running project needs a stable anchor across time: the goal, current step, completion criteria, confirmed facts, verification evidence, and next handoff. Without those elements, resuming work becomes conversation archaeology. Putting the roadmap back inside the project starts with a readable text representation. Text does not require a particular session to open, and it does not force the plan into a hidden object model. More importantly, text can participate in version control. You can see when the goal changed, which step moved to complete, and why the acceptance criteria were revised. Roadmap changes gain the same traceability that developers already expect from a code diff. Once the roadmap and code share a timeline, questions that depended on memory become questions that can be checked. Why was a feature delayed? Compare the boundary and validation evidence from that moment. Why did a refactor stop? Read the risk and handoff. Why was a new idea deferred? Preserve the trade-off instead of debating it again next month. Versioning is not extra ceremony. It gives important judgments a source. A project resident roadmap also lets every agent conversation begin from a concrete step. The user does not need to explain the entire project again. The system can carry the goal, completion criteria, and previous handoff for the selected step, while the user still adds the highest priority requirement for this run. The agent receives enough context to execute without treating an unlimited chat archive as the project itself. Local should not be misunderstood as a promise that nothing ever connects to a network. Your agent's CLI, source host, authorization channels, or optional remote controls may still use external services. The meaningful boundary is ownership. The core roadmap, run records, and handoffs live in a project path you choose. You can inspect them, version them, and decide how they are backed up. Tools may change without taking the project's direction with them. SoloMap follows this principle. It stores the roadmap as a table file in the project and connects projects, steps, agent conversations, completion criteria, and handoffs inside VS Code. You continue using the local agent's CLI you prefer. You still decide the goal, the boundaries, and whether the result is truly complete. SoloMap does not invent the right direction for you. It keeps direction, execution, and evidence from becoming separate stories. You do not need a perfect roadmap before using it. Register one real project and write down its current goal. Generate a first path that includes building, selling, learning, and improving. Then open only the nearest step and make it concrete. What result must exist, which boundaries must remain, what is prohibited, and which evidence will prove completion. After the run, keep the result and handoff beside that same step. A useful roadmap must also be selective. Do not pour every command, log line, and temporary guess into it. The roadmap should preserve state that changes direction or enables a handoff, goals, steps, completion criteria, stable facts, key decisions, risks, and the next action. Detailed process output can remain in run records. Information belongs on the main path only when it helps your future self decide whether to continue, adjust, or complete. Here is a 15-minute action. Open the project you are actively building and ask 4 questions. What is the current goal? Which step is active? What does done look like? What was the latest real verification? If any answer exists only in a chat history or in your memory, write it back into the project. Then install SZLK, generate the first roadmap for that project, and select one verifiable result as the place to begin. When the roadmap lives inside the project, it stops being a presentation that needs periodic maintenance. It becomes the door through which you can re-enter the work every day. Code changes, agent execution, validation evidence, and the next step meet in one context. You do not have to remember the entire past, and you do not have to hand direction to any single tool. Let the agent execute. Let the roadmap keep you oriented.